Alright, well, welcome back to Springheel's modules. I thought this would be just a quick video where I explain something that I didn't mention when we were working on this street, and that has to do with performance issues. These modules are quite a bit more detailed than your average brush street. There's a lot more edges that cast shadows, there's more draw calls, and so that can have a performance impact. One way to avoid having performance problems is just to limit the view distance. So here, instead of having the street continue on straight where you've got a lot more buildings and a lot more modules to view, you could have a bend here, a corner, where then the map turns and goes down a different direction, so you can put two viz portals there. But another option, if you want to have a longer view distance or if you have a lot of modules, is to use the LOD models or the LOD entities that exist. Most of these, maybe not all, but most of these modules have LOD versions, and here's how you would find out if they do. So let's click on this. This is the Timber Roof 01, Roof 256. So we're going to class name, choose entity class, and we're going to go down to the LOD folder under entities. And under this folder, you're going to follow the same folder structure as the model. So this is in architecture, so we're going to go architecture, modules. It's exterior timber 01, and so we'll look for roof 256, and there it is. So now we can, it even tells you down here which module it replaces. So you just add that. And notice that it doesn't move this at all. Nothing has moved. But now this is an LOD class name, or LOD entity. It also keeps the same skin. So you can place all your models rather, and then go back afterwards and decide to change some of them to LOD. You can see on here this is now green. LOD is green as opposed to the default blue, so it helps to see what you have changed and what you haven't. And what will happen is that this has settings built into it so that as you move away, or as the player moves away from it, it will it will switch to a different model that uses lower levels of polygons. So the further away you go, the less detailed the model is, and so it uses less resources. So most of these will have LOD models, including these stones, by the way. Same thing, this is flagstone 01 small, row 01. So again, go to class name, choose entity class. For some reason it always defaults to function. Go down to LOD, architecture, stones, and here we go, row 01. So you can do that. Again, doesn't move anything, so once you've positioned it, you don't have to worry about things getting out of sync. It just switches so that this will now change models as the player moves. Another thing that you can do for performance is you can select models and give them what's called a hide distance. And what that does is it will delete or hide the model if the player moves that distance away. You have to be a little bit careful where you use that. You don't want the player to notice as a model suddenly pops out of existence, but it can be good for hiding models that are either too small to see from a distance away, or that the player just can't see because they can't ever get that far away from it and still have it be visible. So for example, let's say these leaves down here, you really couldn't see them if you're down this far. Whoops. If you're about that far away, it'd be very difficult to notice that they're there. And so you may decide you want to put a hide distance on them. If you do, this is the syntax. It's just hide underscore distance, and then you put the distance at which you want them to disappear. So 700 means you could actually measure that out and see how far 700 is, and that means when the player gets within range, it just disappears. This can be useful if you have a pretty detailed model, or a lot of really small models that you want to get rid of when the player can't actually see them. Especially models that cast a lot of shadows. For example, let me show you one that does. If you go to, I believe it's under kitchen, and there is a crate full of wine bottles, this one. Now this is a model that I think looks pretty good, provides a lot of visual clutter to have this sitting out somewhere. Let's just put it on top of these barrels here. But the problem is that these bottles all cast shadows. I think if you go to the choose model screen, it will tell you, yeah, see, this is over 2,000 polys for something with this many. So it's not insignificant. It's not going to damage your scene just by itself. But if you're trying to squeeze performance out, you could easily take a model like this and put a hide distance on it. It's small enough that when you get a certain distance away, you really can't see it. I mean, from here, there's no angle that you can see this at, you know, probably further than about 500. So let's put 500 on here, and then once the player's 500 units away, it will no longer calculate this. One last trick you can do is have something, give something a hide distance. Let's do this here. We'll say hide distance. Let's make it really obvious. We'll put a hide distance of 200. So that's close enough that the player would notice this disappear. But, and what did we put it on? Because this doesn't turn it green. Okay, so it's that one right there. But you could then put a small brush of some kind that fits inside the model, but will keep the player. I'm just going to texture it with that because I don't have the right stone texture. Actually, no, that won't work for this example. Let's find a better texture. And basically what this becomes almost like a manual LOD system. Stone natural, I don't know exactly what stone that is off the top of my head. Let's just find something similar. That will work. So what you're doing is putting a brush there so that when this model disappears, there's still something there. It's not going to be quite as jarring as if that disappeared and there was nothing underneath it. And when that happens, it draws the player's attention less, which is what you want. So let's we'll quickly save this. We'll hop in game, and I'll show you what it looks like with those modules or with those LOD entities. Okay, so we made the top of that roof down there an LOD model. Let me just see what my LOD settings are. Video advanced, LOD is high. So let's turn this to lowest, and that way you'll be able to see the effect here. So as I get close to this, let's see if we can see it as I back away. Oh, see, there it just changed. So you can see we're going from a higher detailed or higher poly, more detailed model there to a much lower detailed one there, but the difference is not huge. That snaps in like that. If you weren't looking up at it specifically, you probably wouldn't notice, and that's on the lowest setting. I think most people are going to have theirs, I mean, the default is normal, and the way I designed these was so that on normal, okay, so we have this here, and as we back away now, it changes about there. So I designed them so that on normal, you'll see the popping, you'll see the changing if you're looking for it, but otherwise you probably will not notice it. And if you're playing on a setting like better or high, see there it still is the high poly model, and it's not until you get back, wow, how far back here, so almost the beginning of the map, that you change to the lower poly model. So something like that, there's no way somebody's going to notice that, again, unless they're specifically looking for it, and there's still one setting even higher than that. So let's take a look at the one, remember the one we put the hide on. Let's see if we can get far enough away from that crate for it to disappear. I don't think we can. Do I have a... No, I don't have my dev equipment on, so I don't have a spy class. No, I don't think we can get far enough away to notice that crate disappearing. But remember those stones? See how they're disappearing there? But because we have that brush under there, even though it's not the best texture, it's not totally jarring. If I just showed you this as a still screenshot, I don't think it would immediately jump out that, hey, there's stones missing there. Now the popping in and out is a bit distracting, but remember we put a distance of 200 on there, which is quite small. Normally you put, I don't know, you would normally put 400 or 500, which would mean it probably wouldn't disappear until back here somewhere. So that's how you can use both LOD entities and the hide distance command to improve performance on your maps. So I hope that is useful, and until next time, happy mapping.